Drifting is by far one of the most popular and fastest growing forms of motorsport today, being fun to watch, fun to try, fun to fail at, and fun to succeed at, all at the same time. Gaining its rise in pop culture through movies like The Fast and the Furious and video games such as Need for Speed and Forza Motorsport, we get asked daily, what's the best car to start drifting in? What's going on, everybody? I'm Sean from Fitment Industries, and today we're going to discuss just that. But before we dive into trying to answer this very controversial question, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And as always, wheels, tires, suspension, fitmentindustries.com. So what's the best car to start drifting in? First, we need to discuss the basic features that we need in order to get started. The four most desirable drift car features are rear-wheel drive, manual transmission, a lightweight chassis, and arguably the most important cost-effective aftermarket support. You will be giving these cars the biggest bully beatdown they've ever seen, and you will smash it into stuff and send it off track into rough terrain. Things are going to break, and you're going to want to modify the vehicle to make it more capable and more reliable as time goes on. With that being said, these are the top 5 cars to start drifting in. Number 1, the E36 BMW 328. The 328 is BMW's top trim 3 Series under the M3, boasting a whopping 190 horsepower. But where the 328 actually shines is how its torque curve is set up. The 2.8 liter inline 6 has a strong, flat torque curve. The torque comes on low, mustering 181 pound-feet by 2,000 RPM, peaking at 207 pound-feet at 3,950 RPM, and sustaining an ample supply of thrust through 6,000 RPM. Couple that with a curb weight in the 3,100 to 3,300 pound range and a manual transmission, and you've got a recipe for skids. These cars have tons and tons and tons of aftermarket support as well. In fact, you can get a full drift spec chassis and suspension setup for very reasonable money on one website. It's too easy. Number 2 on this list has to go to the Nissan 350Z. Now, I wanted to keep this list away from the typical path of popular drift cars, but 350Zs are so cheap and plentiful, I had to put it on this list. With nearly 300 horsepower, 275 foot-pounds of torque, and a curb weight of 3,200 pounds, the 350Z is basically manufactured with slotty boys in mind, and was arguably one of the most popular cars of its time. The Nissan 350Z made Car and Driver's 10 Best list, Edmunds.com Editor's Most Wanted, Road and Travel's International Car of the Year, Automobile Journalists Association of Canada's Canadian Car of the Year, and Best New Design, Motorweek's Best Performance Car, Road and Track's Best Car under $30,000, and Automobile Magazine's Car of the Year. And that was just 2003. The 350Z went on to win tons more awards throughout production and made the cover of Need for Speed Underground 2, Forza Motorsport 2, and the cover of Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. That's a lot of praise for a car you can now snag for $5,000. And with that kind of popularity comes aftermarket support to meet any budget. You can turn a 350Z into a track and drift monster for just a few $1,000s. And granted, you won't be making any big power without forced induction. These drivetrains can take a massive beating without hesitation. Don't sleep on a 350Z just because it's typical. There's a reason they're used throughout motorsport, and it's the perfect option for getting started. Number 3 comes in with the SN95 Mustang. Now, I know what you're thinking, because every time I suggest an SN95, y'all clap back with, why would you suggest any Mustang that's not a Fox body? Well, don't get me wrong, Fox body Mustangs are great and all, but as the Mustang's 3rd generation transitions into a new classic, the SN95 is quickly becoming the project car generation of Mustang. And there are some very noteworthy advantages to the SN95 Mustang over the Fox platform. Mustang's transition into the 4th generation provided a chassis with a wider track width, longer control arms, factory 4-wheel disc brakes, and 5-lug hubs, which opens up a lot of wheel options. And with that came the addition of Ford's modular 4.6 liter V8 in 1996. Now, the 2-valve 4.6 liter isn't known for being very powerful. In fact, the 350Z out horsepowers the Mustang through its entire 10-year 4th generation lifespan. But what makes these drivetrains great for motorsport is their robust engineering, 300 foot-pounds of torque running through a 3,200 pound chassis with unrivaled aftermarket support. While the SN95 platform is updated over the Fox body, its configuration is largely the same, making parts extremely cheap and very universal. Coilovers for these cars are listed as fitting 1979 to 2004 Mustangs. Drift ready angle kit 79 to 04. Dual caliper brackets 79 to 04. Where it may sound like a bad thing, These universal parts like this bring price down dramatically, and that's what makes this solid rear axle pony car a contender for this list. Reliable, cheap, and easy to find in manual. Before we get into number 4, go ahead and grab yourself a Busch Light and some white New Balances, because we're going to be talking about the Chevrolet Corvette. Yeah, that's right, haters. The C5 generation Corvette more specifically. The C5 Corvette introduced the LS1 into the world in 1996 as a 1997 model year, boasting 345 horsepower and 350 foot-pounds of late 90s earth-shattering torque. With a low-slung 3,200-pound chassis with a perfect 50-50 weight distribution, this car was a monster when it came out. Nearly 25 years later, its previously advanced engineering and styling has dated the car, leaving tens and thousands of massively depreciated sports cars for dead. And what do you get when you have tens of thousands of depreciated sports cars? A large demand for aftermarket support. Mass-produced steering angle kits can be had for reasonable money, as well as various other suspension and chassis components. The C5 Corvette's factory power level is more than enough to slide the car around, and with an over-engineered drivetrain, these cars can take back-to-back beatdowns and remain unstressed, reliable, and still get 30 miles a gallon on the way home, making a clapped C5 Corvette a great first choice for drifting. I saved this car for last because it's very near and dear to my heart. It's also one of the most overlooked cars in the community because of the reputation for being one of the safest and most boring cars in the world. But during the late 80s and in the early 90s, this manufacturer produced a turbocharged 2.3-liter rear-wheel drive manual transmission station wagon that would go on to market itself as the family man's sports car alternative, calling out brands like Porsche, Lotus, Lamborghini, Ferrari, and even Camaro. I'm of course talking about the Volvo 740 Turbo Estate. Now, these cars weren't particularly powerful. In fact, you might even laugh when I tell you they produced only 160 horsepower and 190 foot-pounds of torque from their single overhead cam 2.3-liter four-cylinder. But hear me out. Volvo 740 Turbo is a better, untaxed 240 SX alternative. These Volvos weigh in starting around 2,900 pounds, boast all-wheel disc brakes, rear-wheel drive, a manual transmission, and makes up for the extra 100 pounds or so with a factory turbocharged engine. Unlike the little baby KA24DE, you could add a quick 75 horsepower with a couple of minor bolt-ons in the turn of a boost controller. The Volvo 740 Turbo could do everything the US spec 240 SX did and do it better. More power, stronger drivetrain, easier modification, better build quality, and better drifting. Aftermarket support for chassis mods also rivals that of the S13 platform, and of course the Volvo isn't drift taxed. Volvo 1, S13, big ol' 0, fight me in the comments. And now that I've rustled your jimmies, it's time for me to get out of here. Let me know in the comments what you think I missed and what you think we should cover next. If you need wheels, tires, or suspension, come see the experts at fitmentindustries.com. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Sean for Fitment Industries. Peace.